There is an absolute dearth of good information on the internet about maintaining and preserving a matte finish vehicle. Well, Dr. Beasley's was the pioneer in matte finish. We are actually the first to market with a dedicated matte ceramic coating. So when it comes to matte care, there is no better expert than Dr. Beasley's. Welcome to the Dr. Beasley's Clean Room, everybody. I am the Director of Success, Chris Racana, here to discuss and explore matte paint, how to care for it, and how to protect it, as well as how to handle spot cleanings between washes. And for those of you in the northern climes that perhaps don't have access to water, yes, we are going to address winter maintenance for your matte vehicle as well. Before we dive too deep though, I do want to ask you guys a little favor real quick. Go ahead and smash that like button, and while you're there, tickle that notification bell so that way you can be informed every time we drop a new video on the Dr. Beasley's YouTube page. To protect and maintain a matte finish, first we must understand exactly what a matte finish is. The first thing is, it is nothing like gloss, obviously in appearance, but also in texture. Your gloss painted vehicle, the reason it's glossy and it reflects light is because that gloss finish is smooth. It's flat like a mirror, so again, it's reflecting light at a constant angle. This matte paint here, or matte PPF, or your matte vinyl, that's actually got texture. It's peaks and valleys. So this means that I cannot come back with traditional mechanical or physical means of cleansing that paint. Because again, folks, remembering that it is textured, this means I cannot sit here and scrub and scrub and scrub and scrub, because if I'm scrubbing and I'm using physical force, I am buffing. And if I'm gonna buff, I'm gonna take those peaks and turn them into plateaus, and that matte finish, well, it's gonna be a little less matte. If we are unable to remove a contaminant with product A, well, instead of ramping up our physical aggression or our mechanical aggression, we're gonna ramp up our chemical aggression. As they say, folks, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of the cure, and that statement has never been more true than it has been with matte paint. Once you damage matte paint, once you mar it, once you get an etching, once you scratch it or otherwise, it's game over, folks. The only fix is a repaint. So proper maintenance and protection will virtually eliminate the risk for costly repairs. Now there's the question of, where do you use matte paint prescription? Well, in terms of where on the vehicle, I'm gonna use it on the outside of the vehicle. Especially if we're talking the coating. The coating can be applied to headlights, to your grille, to your trim, because again, it's all matte, so it's not gonna change that finish. So even if you have gloss trim around your headlights, go ahead and apply it. There's no reason to start taping off all the other non-matte elements of the car. As far as these other chemicals are concerned, if you're in cleansing steps, I'm using all these on the outside of the car. That's basically the general rule of thumb. Now, as far as the other aspect of the where question, as far as where geographically, of course, you know, most of us, if we're doing this as an enthusiast, do not have climate-controlled garages with drains in them. So much of this process, especially the maintenance process, can be done outside. However, when it comes to coating, this is something we really want done indoors. This is not a sun-safe product, and generally, it's just something you don't want dust and other things falling onto a freshly coated, or even worse, a wet coating sitting on top of your car that could potentially mar it as you're trying to wipe your coating off that surface. The core items that you are going to need to take care and protect your matte finished vehicle are contained within Dr. Beasley's matte paint prescription. To begin with, we have matte body wash. This is a specific wash that is formulated for matte finishes. Now, it's perfectly safe for gloss or satin finishes, but the key here is, unlike most car wash soaps that are formulated with silicones and oils and other gloss enhancing elements, matte body wash does not change the finish one iota. So matte stays matte, satin stays satin, gloss stays gloss. If there is any matte in your car, even if you have a gloss car, if you got matte stripes, matte wheels, if there is a matte element on the exterior of your vehicle, the body wash you have to use is matte body wash. If I'm dealing with a contaminant on the surface of this matte car and matte body wash doesn't do it, we take the next step on the ladder of aggression and we go to matte paint cleanser. And this is something that is a water-based cleanser focused on organic contaminants, something like bug remains, bird droppings, tree sap. The whole idea is I wash my car, and then after it's washed, instead of trying to take my wash mitt and really rub that contaminant out, I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna wash my car, do the best I can do, and I'm gonna come back and hit that contaminant with matte paint cleanser. Once we've washed the car, we've cleansed the car, then we will move into matte paint coating. What you're gonna find comes in the Dr. Beasley's matte paint prescription is a 4-ounce bottle. Now a professional can get 4 coatings. A professional can coat this E-Series estate with less than 1 ounce, usually right about an ounce. So a professional can get 4 coatings out of this. At home, DIY, you're probably gonna get 2 to 3. You know, the at-home people just tend to be a little bit more heavy-handed with the product. The last chemical included in the matte paint prescription is matte final finish. I recommend to most people, take your matte final finish, 2 microfiber towels, put them in a clean container, and keep them in your trunk. So that way, when you walk out of Costco with your treasure trove of paper towels and granola bars and whatever else, and you see a giant dinosaur-sized bird poop on your hood, you're not gonna freak out. You can simply go around to your trunk, get out your clean container, and you can immediately address that bird poop sitting on your hood without worry of it etching into your ceramic coating, or even worse, through your coating and into your paint. That's why we have matte final finish. Other optional accessories for the matte paint prescription include 2 wash pads. Also included in this kit are foam applicators. Also included when you get all the accessories, a pack of 2 microfiber towels, a grit guard, and the final item included in our matte paint prescription, 5-gallon bucket. 1 bucket, 1 grit guard, 2 wash pads, 2 foam applicators, and a 2-pack of towels are the accessories included. But you know what, folks? I'm getting really tired of talking about all this stuff, and I really want to start doing it. So let's head out to the shop and start looking at a prep bay process. If we want the as advertised performance of the ceramic coating that we're going to apply as a protection step, we have to ensure that our preparation is on point. If your preparation is not on point, you're not going to get that performance, and that's due to the nature of the bond of that ceramic coating. You see, unlike a wax or traditional protective methods that make a physical bond to your paint, a ceramic coating makes a mechanical bond. It actually cross-links and bonds and becomes one with that clear coat. However, it's highly sensitive to contamination. So if we have contaminants sitting on top in the form of tree sap, bug remains, whatever it is, when we lay down that ceramic coating, it's not gonna be able to bond if it's all full of contamination. So this is why we need to ensure that our prep process is on point, and that's what we're digging into right now. Obviously, the least aggressive thing we can do is put water on the car, and that's what we're gonna do here is a pre-rinse. We have our rinse process down, and now we're going to do our pre-foam. So again, the idea of the pre-foam is to let it sit and dwell on the paint so it can break down contaminants. Here's when it's an ideal time to go matte wheel cleanser. So you have matte finished wheels. Let's get this cleanser on there and get it breaking down. So yes, we have the foam going, but this is a little bit more aggressive. So then I can go ahead and get the product dwelling onto these wheels. And I'm being fairly liberal with the product. I'm letting it dwell again. I never want a chemical drying on the surface. So another valuable tool at this point that you can add on are wheel woolies and wheel brushes. These are great tools and will not damage your wheel finish. So I'm gonna go ahead and agitate on the wheels with our wheel brush. And you can even come in here and you can see all this brown goop in the white foam. You can see how the foam between the foam I put on the car with the matte body wash and then the matte wheel cleanser, how it's just taking that brake dust and contaminants down. So now we've done our pre-rinse, we've done our pre-foam, we've hit the wheels. Now it's time for our rinse step. So here's where we come back with our foam. And again, people, whether it's, your Harbor Freight level foam gun, or it's a very high-end foam lance or foam cannon, most important thing you want to remember is when you're using matte body wash is that you never want it to add it into a dry reservoir. You always want your matte body wash going into a reservoir that has some water in it. So now we agitate. I got my wash pads and I'm going to start from the top down. Now, this car was pretty clean. I'm not picking up a bunch of contaminants, but you know what? I know there's stuff in there, so I am going to flip over my wash pads now. And then again, this is a judgment call kind of thing. You guys are just going to have to feel it out as far as when it's time to flip over your wash pad. Now, the other thing you can do is change out wash pads. Just buy more wash pads, and you can change them out more frequently too. Or if you don't care to invest in a dozen wash pads, simply wash them out with your hose. Grab your hose if you think you've picked up some contaminants. Grab your hose and wash out your wash pad. Get those contaminants out there, rinse them out of the fibers of your wash pad, and then continue on with your wash process. Now, luckily here at the shop, I can just turn around and grab another wash pad. So I don't really have to deal with that. These are actually damp, so I'm not putting dry pads on the car. Part of our process here is that the pads are damp, so again, minimizing risk. Like to make sure we're super thorough with the hood, because after all, that's where everyone looks. And then I continue on down the belt line. So the belt line is usually a detail line right here. I'm generally keeping my next round around the car above the belt line because the dirtiest stuff is going to be down here. And actually on the back of the car as well. Working around the bend, make sure I get in the door cups, mirrors, and back to the front. And here's where I'm going to adjust the front of the car. I'm going to flip over my pad. So now I'm going to go down. So I know I'm going to keep this mitt. I just did the front of the car with this mitt, kind of dirty on the front, so I'm going to go ahead and flip it over. The sides there, and I'm going to keep this one down in the lower portion and this one on the upper portion, and try not to co-mingle it too much. Things are going to happen, no matter what you do. Stuff happens. Regardless, we can do our best through utilizing proper techniques and the most modern chemical technology available, so that way we do not minimize or we do not make ourselves difficult. Brings me to a point. What happens if that happens? I just dropped my wash mitt. We are not using that wash mitt anymore. That's what happens. You drop your wash mitt, you're not washing it out, you're not doing anything. You're just gonna either go get a fresh wash mitt, deal with the other one, and this is now laundry. I'm gonna start in the front and work my way down. So now we are at the final rinse. So this is where we really want to be thorough. The initial rinse, not so thorough, because I knew I was coming back again. But with this rinse, super thorough. I want to get all the matte body wash, all the cleansers, all the products and cleansers that I've used to wash and whatnot. I want to get that all off the car. First of all, there's the $2 method, which is what we recommend. So this is why you'll take your kit that comes with, if you go with the matte paint prescription, that comes with 1 bucket and 1 grit guard. You're gonna wanna add a second bucket and a second grit guard. And the idea here is that we will now have a wash bucket and a rinse bucket. The idea is we have our wash pads that will go into the wash bucket. They will soak up all that foam and everything. And these are what we're gonna put on the car, pick up all those contaminants, and then we will rinse them in the rinse bucket before they go back in the wash bucket, thus leaving all those contaminants in the rinse bucket. So when it comes to using matte body wash, we recommend 2 capfuls per gallon of water. So this is a 5-gallon bucket, have approximately 3 gallons of water in there. So we're gonna do 6 capfuls. 6 heaping capfuls, if you will. You know, I am Italian and that's how we measure. 4, 5, 6. Once you've added your matte body wash, you either take your power washer if you got one, or just put your hose nozzle on the most powerful, most narrow stream. And there you go. Beautiful, beautiful foam. And of course, fill up our rinse bucket. All right, get them all nice and soapy. And we're gonna leave those in there. All right, so obviously first thing we wanna do when we're using one of the bucket methods is rinse the car. Again, this cools off the panels, but also knocks off the boulders. So give the car a thorough rinse. Once we've given the car a thorough rinse, we can come back to our wash bucket. And I always kind of like to leave and let them drip in there a little bit. I don't want to waste a bunch of the foam. So, and of course, folks, you know, top down. Now, I always start with the hood, just because where does everyone always look? Everyone always looks at the hood. I got these beautiful fresh mitts, and this is where I want to use them. So I'm just going to go ahead and just long, even strokes. When you have contaminants, you're going to come to your rinse bucket and you're going to get rid of those contaminants. And one kind of cool thing you can do is you can actually agitate. So you have this grit guard in here. This serves 2 purposes. Number 1, as the contaminants fall below this to the bottom of the bucket, they're going to stay down here and not come back up to meet your wash pad. That's number 1. Number 2, it's something to agitate my wash pad again. So if I am full of junk, I can sit there and agitate it while it's in the water and get rid of these little contaminants. And now I have a nicely rinsed pad. Oop, let's get rid of that one. You always want to inspect, nothing better than human eyes. Go back into the wash bucket, get it all foamed up again. And generally I like to wait, it's got a nice stream here, and then once this splits is when I go put it on the car. Boom, now I'm ready to go on the car. And this is the process I'm going to continue all the way around. Now, again, I don't want anything drying on the surface. So if you're working outside, you're working in a hotter area, you might have to wash panel by panel. Go through the wash, rinse it, dry it, and go again, because we really don't want this soap drying on the surface. But this is what you're going to continue your process all the way around washing the car. So now that we've completed our preparation, our wash prep process in anticipation of a coating, again, we want to make sure that this matte finish is free of contaminants. And after a brief inspection, I did find some schmutz sitting on the surface right here. So again, the idea is not to sit here and rub and mechanically try to clean that off. Because if I sit here and rub, I'm buffing. And if I buff this matte paint, I'm gonna make it shiny, which is bad. Matte body wash was not aggressive enough to remove that. The next step is matte paint cleanser. Best practices when you're dealing with a chemical, you're gonna spray from the bottom up Or because I'm working on such a localized spot, I'm gonna actually hold my microfiber towel underneath it and then apply the cleanser and give it dwell time. Again, the name of the game here is dwell time. I want it to sit on the surface long enough, but not so long that it dries. Now, if I want to extend dwell time, just spray some more on it, and I just extended the dwell time. Again, the main thing is here, I just don't want it drying up. And now what I can do is, boom, contaminant now removed. At the end of our process, we're just making sure this is completely free of contaminants before we move forward into the drying process. When it comes to safely drying your matte finished vehicle, there are a few different techniques. Now we're gonna go start with the kind of traditional towel method, which is using a towel to dry. Now, a couple things, we like the waffle weave towels. Now, if you have a matte paint prescription, that comes with microfiber towels. That's different. The microfiber towels I like when we're using chemicals, the coatings, the cleansers. When it comes to washing, especially the drying process, I love these waffle weave towels. So you might want to consider adding these to your matte paint prescription. So the other thing, these waffle weave towels are damp. They are not dry. And again, the point of this is to keep it able to softly and smoothly move across the surface without inducing any marring. With a matte finish, you just want to take extra care. I don't want to sit here and dry my car like I'm trying to remove wax from it. Because again, that's friction, that's touching the car more than necessary. So what I am gonna do is take my waffle weave towel, I'm gonna lay it across, and I'm gonna move one motion front to back. I can wring out, and again, one motion front to back. And that's really how I want to handle this roof. I want as little friction, as little pressure on the paint as possible. Now, obviously this roof is mostly glass, but we still got a lot of matte paint back here, so same thing applies. I want to make sure my towel is free of contaminants. It certainly should be, because the car should be perfectly clean, but it's something you want to keep an eye on. If you think the towel is at all picked up something, go ahead and get a new waffle weave. It's not worth marring your paint. Another waffle weave is much less expensive than another paint job. That's really what you want to do for your towel method. Use your first towel to get the lion's share of that water off, and then come back with another waffle weave or two or three to touch up those spots. If you're going Mr. Miyagi and I'm sitting there drying like this and I pick up a contaminant, now I got swirl marks. It's just out of an abundance of caution, change towels often and just use long linear strokes. We don't have to sit there and get it all with the first wipe down. If we're looking at the trending or fashionable way to dry your car, that is using our Ego blower. Now this is the 650 model. There is the more powerful 765 model. And as I like to say, more power is mo better. We're gonna go ahead, we're gonna dry up this car now that it's fully prepped and ready to go, and we're gonna move it on in to the clean room for final inspection and finally the protection steps, that is applying a ceramic coating. We are now ready to get into the nitty-gritty of applying a ceramic coating onto our matte finished vehicle. However, we are not done cleaning, because again, like I alluded to earlier, if we want that as advertised performance out of this ceramic coating, we have to make sure this surface is free of any and all contaminants. It must be as close to virgin clear coat as possible. So simply assuming a wash was gonna do it doesn't do it. The fact is no. At minimum, we require at least one step with our matte paint cleanser. Now again, this is kind of a dual role product. We can use this as a spot cleaner on our coated car. Instead of jamming on it with our wash mitt and matte body wash, we use matte paint cleanser as a spot cleaner. In this case, when, again, my end game is that ceramic coating, here's where I'm gonna use matte paint cleanser over the entire vehicle. All matte painted surfaces must get touched by matte paint cleanser to again ensure that we are as close to virgin clear coat as possible. And again, if you come up with something more stubborn, we go to a more aggressive chemical. That would be the next step would be matte decon. This is water-based aimed towards inorganic contaminants. And then finally, if matte decon didn't do the trick for you before you're gonna apply your ceramic coating, you go to Matte Paint Cleanser Pro. Solvent-based, the most aggressive paint-safe cleanser that we have. Now, anytime you use any of these products, rules are as follows. 1, you're always gonna work from the bottom up, and 2, you're never gonna let them dry on the surface. So, matte paint cleanser application is pretty straightforward. Prime the towel. I always like to prime my towel a little bit. I don't like dry microfibers on dry paint when I can avoid it. And again, I'm just gonna lightly mist the paint. I don't wanna see this running off the surface or running down this hood. All I'm doing is just enough to get coverage. Now again, if I am in a warm climate, extremely arid climate where I'm worried about products drying up on me, I will work in smaller areas. But we are in a highly controlled environment here, so I am able to work larger areas. Give my towel another flip. I'm gonna flip it to the inside now, to the dry side, and just do a kind of final buff off of any residual product that hasn't flashed off yet. This is just kind of double checking your work. I'm sure you did a fantastic job washing your car in preparation for this ceramic coating, but let's just be doubly sure that we got everything. Because again, you don't want to go through this whole, make all this effort to put on a coating only to have it foiled because your preparation was not on point. So be thorough, be diligent with your prep, and you will get the performance you so richly deserve out of that protection step to follow. Finally, after that preamble, we are now at the protection step. First thing you want to do when it comes to a wet application is make sure you have the appropriate tools. Number 1, you need water without minerals. Now, if you don't, you're going to want to go out and get some distilled water. If you are a professional detailer, you have a DI water system, you can really speed up this process by utilizing this wet application out in your wash bay. So what we'll go ahead and do is drop a link down below to our ceramic coating fast video that features a Hellcat Durango and our Formula 1201, which is essentially a gloss version of our matte paint coating. But what they have in common is identical application process. So you professionals, go check out that video after you've completely watched this video, of course. So anyway, for you at home, you do not have a DI water system, we're gonna get either distilled water or get some DI water into your spray bottle, and we're going to mist this panel. And I'm thinking morning dew. Again, I'm not flooding the panel here, I just want a simple mist of this panel. Now, generally I will do entire panels. There is a long working time with this coating. I'm gonna take my old school wax applicator and take my matte paint coating, and I'm gonna go ahead and drop about, I don't know, a dozen or so drops just to prime it and kind of get that product in there. As I continue on the process, I'll probably add between 6 and 8 drops every time. But again, as you get further along, you get this saturated, you're gonna need less and less of the product. And then what I'm gonna do here is just simply go Mr. Miyagi style. Now you can certainly crosshatch if you want, but it's really just about getting total and even coverage. This is a self-leveling coating, so we're not worried about high spots or me overlapping or anything like that. And what you're gonna see here, like right down here, you see how the surface is becoming instantly hydrophobic. You know something's happening here because it's starting to push off water, and you get these kind of milky white beads. So again, I'm gonna come back here, add a little bit more. And again, if you want to crosshatch it, because that's your thing, go ahead and crosshatch, folks. You can crosshatch. Again, 2 ways to get in the same place. I just want to make sure I got my matte paint coating all over the place. You notice I'm gonna go over the lights. I'm gonna go over trim. I'm gonna go over everything. Because again, my only concern is that I just don't want the stuff drying up on me. So I'm gonna spray here. You can see how fast one can really move through this. Now we could go to our film coating kit here, our matte film coating kit, which is our kit dedicated for matte PPF, matte vinyl, and all that kind of stuff. But in these kind of hybrid solutions where we just have a little bit of PPF and the car is mostly paint, you're perfectly fine to go ahead and use your matte paint coating. But the one thing I just have to note is you can't have the same expectations as performance, because this is a coating that's meant to and intended to bond to paint. Now we're putting it on plastic, so it's certainly not going to cause anything negative. I mean, we're always going to tell you test in a non-obvious area for compatibility, but in our experience, nothing negative is going to happen here. I just can't have the same expectations as the same durability on plastic film that I can on paint. So at this point, this is where a prep wash and a maintenance wash are going to diverge. They're both essentially the same washes. Again, whether you want to do a 1 bucket, 2 bucket, 3 bucket, or a foam cannon, that wash process is the same until we get to this point where what are we doing? What is our final goal? If our final goal is to simply maintenance our coated matte car, well then this is when we're going to go to our advanced coat matte product. This is a product that will reinvigorate that coating and rejuvenate the beading effects. So essentially, if you look at Dr. Beasley's standard matte paint coating, the one that comes in the matte paint prescription, that is generally a 1-year coating if you leave it alone. However, if you get on a schedule of quarterly maintenance, so 4 times a year after a wash, we maintenance it with our advanced coat, we can extend the life of that coating and then get 2+ years out of it. So it's really, what do you want to do? Do you want to coat your car annually, or do you want to extend the life of your coating with quarterly maintenance with our advanced coat products? So anyway, fairly straightforward use. It's pretty much a spray and wipe type product. Now again, we don't want to go heavy-handed. As most Dr. Beasley's products, a little goes a long way. So again, I'm going to go on to my stream setting, and then all I'm really doing is misting the surface. That's about it. Again, I don't want to see this product running down the hood. That's going to make for a miserable experience. And you notice I kind of got the center line here, a little dry over here, a little dry over there. That's okay, because I'm going to spread the product around. So again, just going to kind of prime my towel with a little quarter trigger spray onto my towel, just like that. And then what I can do is simply just want to make sure that I have complete and even coverage. I'm not trying to so much buff it off as just trying to spread it around at this point. Just to make sure I got total, even, and complete coverage. And again, we don't want it drying on the surface, but I know in this area, we're in Chicago, and I know that our humidity level and our temperature is controlled. So I know I do have the work time here to be able to do this whole hood. But that's something that you're going to want to start out in a smaller area, maybe 1/4 of a 1/3 of a hood, and kind of get your comfort level up. So now that I've applied it all over the hood, I'm going to use my same towel, just flip that over the inside to the dry side, and just a gentle buff off. Now, one thing I just want to kind of remind you, it's not just kind of a and leave it kind of thing. It's almost, you want to kind of work it into the surface a little bit. And again, I am using the minimal amount of hand pressure, enough just to keep the towel moving on the surface. And again, I'm keeping flipping and keeping it rotating to dry sides. And then I can kind of do my final kind of Mr. Miyagi buff off to leave a nice, brilliant matte finish. So again, if you see any spots, just keep on working it in. And that's really the name of the game with this product. We kind of want to massage it in to our ceramic coated car. And then after this application, we are going to see those beading effects return as if it was a freshly coated vehicle. Voila. Now we have a freshly maintained matte paint coating. When it comes to maintenance on the go, it's matte final finish for the tool that we're going to want to go to. We're assuming here when we go to matte final finish that this is not a freshly washed car. This has been driven 100 miles. You can see there's even leaves wedged into the hood here. And this is far from fresh and clean. But what happens if you walk out of the big box warehouse store with your trough of paper towels and granola bars and you find a giant dinosaur-sized bird poop on your paint? Obviously that's a concern. Even ceramic coated, that could be left to etch through that coating into your paint. So when it comes to things like that, watermarks, bird droppings, all this, bug remains, we want to address those as soon as possible. And if we're not going to be able to get the car washed within the next day or so, this is why I always recommend to people, especially with matte finishes, you must keep 2 microfiber towels, a bottle of matte final finish, all in a clean container inside your car. So that way, when you run into these moments that you are out and about and you don't have time to wash your car, I cannot freak out with that contaminant sitting on top of my roof. I can just simply go into the back of the car, grab my microfiber, grab my final finish, and address that contaminant before it causes permanent damage to the finish. And again, nothing fancy, folks. I really just want to make sure it's clean on the inside, because we love microfiber towels because they're so grabby and they pick up everything. I hate microfiber towels because they're so grabby and they pick up everything. Exactly why we don't want this microfiber towel rolling around this trunk. So you can imagine if this microfiber towel is rolling around this trunk, I'm picking up leaves and dirt and all other stuff, and that's certainly nothing that I want to put against my paint. So let's grab one of our clean microfiber towels out of our clean container, and we're going to grab our final finish. So the idea with the final finish is this product has the clean ability, but also the lubricity, because again, if this was a freshly washed car, I might go to something like matte paint cleanser, which is a great cleaner, but has zero lubricity in it. This product has that cleaning ability and the lubricity. So this is the spot that we want to remove from our matte paint. Again, if you look around the matte paint though, you'll see there is plenty of just dust and dirt. Obviously it's been rained on since the car's been driven. You can tell by the kind of pattern of dust and contaminants on top. So this is why I can't simply just take a microfiber towel and wipe it up, because then I'm going to mar all this paint around there. So what I want to do, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to emulsify that area, and I'm going to give it some dwell time. Now again, dwell time is always a tricky thing because it depends on the environment. The most important thing is I don't want, and you notice, see how it's running down? So I'm gonna put my microfiber right here. I'm not putting any pressure on it. I just want it to run into the microfiber because I don't want to create a big mess here. But I want to allow dwell time for the cleaning agents to break down that contaminant. So then what I can do, and also just to be extra safe, what I like to do is also give my towel a quick spritz, and I'm gonna fold it over, and I'm just gonna gently kind of just wipe up that area. And I'm gonna move my towel back about an inch. You see, that's where I just wiped up there, and I just moved it back 1 inch because I'm not gonna put that back on the car. And I'm gonna give it another kind of wipe, and then that's it. Now, I'm not going back and trying to get perfection out of this, because again, if I want perfection, we're gonna wash the car. All this is to address a contaminant that we want taken care of right away, because that could have been something that could have potentially etched into our coating, and eventually if it's left to sit and bake in the sun, could etch through the coating and into your paint. So again, folks, this is your maintenance on the go with matte final finish. In closing, folks, I just want to leave you with some good, solid advice when it comes to matte paint care. First of all, Either do it right or don't do it at all. This is a tried and true process that has been proven thousands of times again. Again, remember, Dr. Beasley's is a pioneer when it comes to matte care. We were the first to come to market with a dedicated matte coating. We understand what it is. We have nailed down this process. All you have to do is follow through with that process. Make sure your prep is on point, and you will get the as advertised performance out of that coating. Secondly, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of the cure. Obviously, as we discussed earlier, folks, as soon as you can get to it, the sooner the better. If it's a new car or even just new to you, you want to make sure that vehicle is protected. Thank you again, everybody. I appreciate you coming and joining us, learning a little bit about matte paint care. I would like to ask you for one thing before I leave you for the day. Maybe you can help me educate all of America, folks. If you are out there and you're driving in the left lane and you're not passing anyone, it is time to move over to the right. So please help me spread the good word. It is left lane for passing, it is middle lane for cruising, and it is right lane for entering and exiting the expressway. Thanks again so much, everybody. Have a wonderful day and drive safely.